Oh, serious turn for the worse. A major clash between King Charles and Prince William looms late this year. One of the Prince of Wales' biggest days will clash spectacularly with a historic moment for the King. And it won't be pretty. Hello and a very warm welcome back to LVT News. We've talked a lot about Harry and Meghan, and it seems like we have forgotten some of the problems within the royal family. And in this video, we're going to talk about an issue together. Is it true that the monarchy is in trouble right now? And does that maybe change your opinion about things? Well, let's find out. Kings have been having problems with their sons since basically forever. And so maybe it is a good thing that occurring King Charles and his heir William haven't been allowed to take so many of the swords currently safely locked away at the Tower of London. Considering the growing danger that they may end up poking each other with the weapons in the Clarence House sitting room. Queen Camilla might not need to go get that box of band-aids just yet. But the way things are looking right now, father and son may be set for a very unfortunate face-off in the future. For once, I'm happy to tell you this has nothing to do with a younger prince who wants to climb the greasy pole of public popularity or king ready to use his children to make himself look better. Instead, it all boils down to a complete coincidence. Late on Thursday night, the announcement came out that Charles was going to preside over his first state opening of Parliament since he is sated, and he was finally allowed to sit behind his mother's desk when November 7th rolls around. His Majesty and Queen Camilla are going to take their first turn, appearing at any other time, this would be a dream event for His Majesty. His chance to look all royal and get his face all over the headlines. But the chances of the 74-year-old getting to enjoy his moment have taken a real turn for the worse. Considering that the state event just so happens to have been planned for exactly the same day that William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales, are going to be in Singapore and join the global media's attention at this year's Earthshaw Prize. Now just think about it. If you were an editor for a newspaper or a website, whose photo would you want to use? Charles looking incredibly serious, while Camilla has a slightly glazed-over look in her eyes? Or would you want to use a gorgeous shot of the Prince and Princess with the latter? I'm sure looking like her usual striking self. Would you want to feature some 70-somethings doing their jobs or some glamorous superstars taking a turn on the red carpet? Well, yeah. That's the problem. Now, this little situation is neither Charles nor William's fault, is just a cruel twist of fate, and it doesn't change the fact, though, that when all this plays out, it's probably only going to be the latest example of William getting more attention than his father gets. In May, His Majesty was crowned atop the 13th Cosmodi pavement inside Westminster Abbey. But if you follow the social media accounts of the Prince and Princess of Wales, you could be forgiven for believing the whole event was basically just an opportunity to showcase how good the Wales family looked in formal robes. King, Queen. Over coronation weekend, we saw so many glossy videos from their Kensington Palace outfit. Slick productions starring the family like they were the Kardashians of the royals. Charles and Camilla, meanwhile, were just basically guest stars in their own important moment. And almost the same scenario played out just a month later in June, with William choosing a milestone moment in his father's reign to state "To look at me." Publicity smash and grab June 17th with Scheme. Charles first trooping the colour, and it was the first time that a sovereign had ridden in the military fest since 1980. But that same weekend, William, the Prince of Wales, decided to give an in-depth interview to the Times Royal Nika, in which he promised end homelessness and released a new photo of him surrounded by his beautiful children. And even though William's interview was loosely connected to his 41st birthday, which was 4 days later, surely he could have decided for that story to run the weekend after. I mean, it's not like the problem of homelessness was going to disappear. And he was going to miss the boat. And then came another sticky situation in the story of Charles and William. when we learned that the prince now in control of the Duchy of Cornwall would make his father pay to stay at the Welsh cottage that His Majesty had previously gotten to enjoy using. Now, even worse, the king would need to move even more of his stuff out so that it could be rented out to non-regal holidaymakers. And according to the Mail on Sunday, His Majesty was a bit miffed at William's decision. And then in July, we learned the news that William was planning to double the size of a bit of ancient woodland the duchy owned. And that's a moment that came replete with a video of him looking like some type of green-finger country squire who was more than just a bit in love with the English countryside and... But what about the kings? Decades of talking about conservation. Well, it wasn't mentioned. Now, none of these are potentially fatal instances. But when we put them all together, and looks like an impatient William is trying to seize as much of the media's attention as possible to make himself look like the most exciting king in waiting. And this is a bit problematic because one of the most important things that has helped the royal family figure out its way through the Prince Andrew and Sussex scandals has been unity. The remaining senior HRHs all pulling in the same direction and make unanimous decisions. Played a really important part in the fact that the monarchy has come out the other side, mostly intact. The House of Windsor just cannot afford another big problem in the family right now. Everything has to be done to improve the monarchy's resilience, which is why Charles and William cannot end up ever seriously in some kind of feud. Or they might as well invite the Republic. UK head agitator Graham Smith over for a cream tea to talk about how to go about dismantling. So William needs to be patient. He needs to stop trying to over-eagerly set himself up as the king in waiting. And Charles needs to do a better job of keeping his ego in check when his much more popular son and daughter-in-law steal the limelight a little. These days, Catherine spends a lot of her working time with preschoolers. And that particular skill set, teaching patience and waiting for your turn, could come in handy about now. A morning spent relearning how to share could probably be a good thing for both William and Charles. And who's to say, maybe if the boys act right, there could even be a big slice of cake for them. And you, what do you think about this issue? Please continue to discuss the royal family with us below in the comments. Remember to like and share my video with anybody else who would enjoy it. If you think my video is useful, and besides that, please subscribe.